welcome back to my channel. This is my sketch for the week, and it's just on a piece of 200-gram paper, watercolor paper, and I'm just putting in the headland and the sky. This is a light wash, a little bit of cloud there going in, a little bit of gesture, just very light. There's quite a bit of water in this colour. And now I'm swapping to my reservoir brush, which has a longer and shorter hairs in it and holds a nice amount of water, but you can draw with the tip. Putting in a little bit of blue for the sky, it'd be a cobalt blue and a cerulean mix. Very light, keeping it all easy and not getting too heavy with it. So just dabbing a bit more in there. I will list the palette in the description below, and it is in the scene now, but yeah, it doesn't show up so much. So this is the darker headland going in. That was the distant hill and the sky. This is the darker headland, and you can see that it's wet on wet, so it is moving and bleeding there a bit. And that is something I should have probably done, dry it off. But I'm ever hasty and off I go. But that's okay. We sort it out by the end. So that's a little sort of peninsula of land. Just drawing a little bit with the reservoir brush. The sliver of land or the white paper is distant water, and this would just be a mix of umber and blue, making a sort of a grey, maybe with a bit of ultramarine blue in it. That makes a nice neutral. Changing out to some water in the front, so a little bit of cobalt blue, bit of ultramarine, probably a bit of cobalt teal blue, which is my Daniel Smith favourite. But again, keeping it very light washes. This was an exercise in the dark land and the light water. A little bit of reflected or shadow from the clouds that would be up above, just on the water. But again, it's not super dark, sort of a medium value. And it's got a little bit more of ultramarine blue and a bit of the land colour in it, just to harmonise the two colours together. This is cobalt teal, using a slightly juicier wash of cobalt teal. If you are new to my channel, you won't know this, but I love cobalt teal. But I am quite careful about how I use it because it's an opaque colour and it can take over. So then I thought, well, I'll put a little bit more of the cobalt teal in the foreground, and you can see it pushes away that darker blue wash. So this is all wet in wet. And I quite like it. I'm looking at it now for the second time, and I like that dark land against that step back into that distant hill. I think that works quite well. So now I've gone in with a wash of the same as the land colour, but a little bit more water in it, just to indicate some of the clouds. So I've got a brush with some just pure water in it, just to keep those edges from being too hard along the horizon there. So they are harder on top, but then they sink into the vapour or the atmospheric perspective that you see when you look out at a landscape. So now I came back in with a bit more of the dark. And you could, yeah, and I've pulled out some of the colour, and you can see I was sort of in two minds whether to bring the darker land up over in front of that background or to clear it like I did there with a clean brush. And well, what I've done now is gone in with a little bit stronger colour. Again, I should have got my hairdryer out and dried that off, because now you can see I'm resorting to my tissue to actually try and dry that edge off, because I didn't really want it bleeding. I'm not quite sure, sometimes you do things and you don't stop and think about them, or at least that's my experience. So now I've sort of fudged it again. I'm not quite sure why I did that. But I think this is quite instructional in that, hey, you know, things don't always go according to plan. And sometimes that's fine. It's just part of the process. And maybe I make a note to self, get the hairdryer out, actually use it. So now I left it for a bit and I went back in with some stronger teal. And that being opaque will sit and dry quite well. It won't bleed so much into the other colours. And just again touching up in the foreground, a bit more definition in the water. But I'm quite liking the way the cloud is sitting in the sky and the light is on the water in the background and feeding through. So with the final painting, you'll see that I actually did sort the land out a little bit more. I must have dried it, and I quite like it now. I think it worked out okay. Thank you for watching, and happy painting yourself. Remember to use your hairdryer if you've got it, and I'll see you next time.